Okay guys, so Poplar Mechanic here. I apologize, for some reason I lost my audio on this video, but today we're in the shop. We're going to be making this piston holder. You can see here in my hands I have a piece of cut off steel. I cleaned up the faces, center drilled it. Okay, so that's the part of the piston holder that's going to be chucked in. And then you can see I've drilled a hole in the center there, and I'll be showing right now how this bolt goes up through it. Okay, so there's the bolt, so that's going to come up through, and that's what's going to hold your piston. Now what you basically have to do is machine a piece of steel down and then center drill that thing so it'll be the size of the wrist pin. It's going to slide through, and then you can thread that bolt, right? So I'm just showing right there, that's a sample one, but it's not quite center, and I found a better way to get it centered. But basically that's how it's going to work. You know, that's how it's gonna hold the piston without damaging the outside of it. And I also just wanted to point out here, you can just chuck them in the lathe and be fine with it. It's just certain pistons. This isn't the actual one I want to spin, it's a different one, so I ended up having to make a different size of wrist pin, but it wasn't a huge deal. So you can see I'm just showing here right now how it works. You just basically, and you just tighten that bolt, and then you chuck that piece of steel into the lathe instead of the piston. But like I said, there's different ways you can chuck the piston in. This is just one way to get around, usually with smaller chainsaw pistons. That's just a scrub piston I have kicking around for testing this, but by the end of this video you will see the 268 one spun up. Okay guys, so this is just a piece of steel I had kicking around from the stump grinder. But anyways, as you can see here, I'm just going to be machining the diameter down to the exact size of the wrist pin needed.
Really good.
And basically that's all I'm going to do.
Here, so I'm not going to use oil.
And then I'm going to part those two pieces off that I was talking about. One just a bit longer than the wrist pin so I can clean it up, and then a little nub so I can easily drill to center. Also, I'm just roughing it here. I end up using the follow rest, which stops like thin metal from bowing, but this is just roughing it off. So that's all I wanted to show you guys here.
Go all the way to the end here.
Okay guys, so here's just a little update. I got her down to the desired diameter. I'm a little under, I'm 506 and it's 510, but that really doesn't matter, those few thousandths. It'll just be a little bit easier to get in. So here we go. I did end up having to put the follow rest on. I'll show it to you right here. It just bolts right on here. Okay, and that way it follows the part, because what happens is this gets skinny and long. Like anytime you're doing long parts, it wants to bow out in the middle. So I was getting inconsistent diameter, and it's still slightly inconsistent, but it's a lot better with the follow rest, that's for sure. I just got the brass one, so you can get ones with bearings. So I just wanted to do a little update on that, and then basically I'll probably just end up cleaning this up, and that way I can make more of these out of this one part. And the reason I couldn't get to here is because that follow rest kept hitting these ridges, so I'm just going to smooth that out. Alright guys, so I've just turned the lathe down because now we don't need it at 1,000,000 RPM. It's just you need high RPM to get this thin stuff smooth, right? Because it's spinning slower technically because it's a smaller diameter. And now we're just going to go ahead and drill this hole, and then I'll show you what that's for. So that's just the slowest speed the lathe will go basically. Got some oil on there already. Okay, now we're hitting. Drills quite beautifully on here. And the reason I'm making these holes here is so
I'm gonna cut a little piece off and then lay it on top, and then that's how you can drill perfectly dead center there into the center of the circle, which is important. And then I'm just gonna tap it so that bolt fits in. So basically I'm just gonna go as deep as this will let me go here.
Alright guys, so I just wanted to point out here too, I accidentally drilled too large of a hole for the tap that I'm going to be using here.
Chips quite nicely
so
there,
it's not a huge deal. I did for the 268, I ended up having to make the wrist pin a little thinner, and then I did drill a smaller hole, but the process is exactly the same.
Alright guys, so you can see I just have the carriage locked here now, and all I did is I went beyond the length of the wrist pin just a little bit, and that way, you know, I can clean it up a little bit. Alright, let's see what happens. My shitty parting skills part 2.
Alright guys, so when you're parting, the closer you are to the jaws where you're parting, the smoother the cut's going to be. I just wanted to point that out.
Well, I'm getting better guys, I'm getting better. That was a much better part. I ended up with a bit of a nipple on this piece, but like I said, I can just lock that in and smooth that off real quick. I can just smooth that nipple off, but yeah, no, that went really good. So now I've got my wrist pin, and then like I said, I'm gonna lock this in the drill press thing, and this had a little nipple on it. I just ground it off, just a little piece there. You set it up like this, like you see how it is, and then that way if they're both locked in, you can hit dead center of this, and that's exactly what you need. So I'll go set that up now. Okay guys, so this is what this is going to look like in the drill press. You can see I've got the first, the wrist pin style one down, and then I've pinched them both in the vise here. They're the same diameter, and then that way when I come down this hole, I'm going to hit dead center on the center there. Well, that's the idea anyways. So we'll go ahead and drill this out and see if it works. Alright, so down through the center we go. Okay guys, so there's a close-up. So I mean, it's a lot better than my first one. It looks pretty much bang on. You guys can see that. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab my tap and die set, and we'll put threads in here that match that bolt from the beginning. Alright guys, so I'm just going to hand tap this hole that we just drilled in the center here. And then I've got the correct tap right here, and I'm just going to be doing it by hand. There's no point in getting extravagant with this. It's just going to be straight down, and then I'm just going to drop a little air tool oil on it just because it's the closest oil to me right now. We'll just go ahead and set that in. Yeah, I got this tap and die set on sale actually at Canadian Tire. Couldn't believe it, some of the deals they have.
Alright guys, so I just wanted to point out here, I accidentally did drill the incorrect hole. That was my bad, but I did fix it up before I put it my 268 piston on there. One thing I wanted to point out is it could be a little bit stiffer than this, so you're going to want to go in and then back it out, go in and then back it out, and use oil, and you will get through, and it'll be awesome threads.
getting a bit crooked there. Okay, so there's our threads. I actually could have went a diameter smaller on the drill bit here, but that's not a big deal, and that's why I made a bunch of these too. But that's no big deal. This is still going to work perfectly fine. Okay, so now that we got the threads, just show you how this works. Obviously it's threads, you know how threads work, but that's how it's going to pinch it to that cylinder, okay? Alright guys, so I went ahead and put it on. It looks a lot straighter than the other one. So I just went ahead and tightened this on the bottom, and then that's super secure to here. So we're going to go ahead and do some test cuts. Now, because this is a junk piston, I'm not going to sit here and fuck with it. So what I mean by that is, like, before you do a piston you're actually going to keep, you're going to want to go around, tap the jaws, put your dial indicator on. I might slap the dial indicator on here. Okay guys, so this is actually a different piston. This is a 268 that's going to be going in my 372. I made a white mark on here, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go 10 millimeters in from the outside, and then I'm going to be doing a 30,000 pop-up piston on this, because that's what's going to work with my 372 and no base gasket. So we're just going to go ahead, and I believe I'm touching, if not close. I'm just going to touch off. Okay, so right there, that's about touching. I'm just going to set up my dial indicator here. So I've got it set to 0. We're just going to move in. Actually, we're going to do 5 for this little test. We'll do 10.
Okay guys, so basically
10,000.
here I'm using the dial indicator for the depth, and then I'll be using the one end of the caliper just to make sure that I'm 10 millimeter away from the edge for the pop-up, and you're just going to keep doing that and then keep measuring until you get your desired dimensions. One other thing I wanted to mention, guys, is you're going to want to put a chamfer on this when you're finished so you don't have super rough edges, and all you do is put the tool at 45 and then just walk it in slowly, and that'll give you a little sort of a dome-shaped taper. I didn't actually get a chance to record that, but there's lots of videos online that can show you how.
Okay, we'll check that there. I think if I redid this, I'd probably use the 4-jaw. So we're at 9.8. 9.8. 9 so I'm getting a bit different, so I don't have it completely square. It's a few thousandths off, but it's not a huge deal. I need about a 1/2 mil here pretty much. Alright guys, so there's the finished product. I just hit her with a little polish there. The shit I had kicking around, it's pretty good. So yeah, it looks pretty awesome. The piston holder is good, although in the future I may actually go with the square one and use the 4-jaw. It is just so difficult. I was out a few thousandths here, I'm not gonna lie, but personally I don't think it's gonna be a huge deal, but it's really tough to get this face straight and you know, you're up and down straight. She's a little cattywampus by about 6 thou, and I know that sounds like a lot, but I had to compromise somewhere to get this face straight, right? Because I thought the depth was more important. So that's going to be this piston, and I'm going to be throwing it in my 372. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.